Welcome to LeatherBrainz, the podcast for fantasy football. Now, introducing your host, Hunter Slapdog Amaruso, and Matthew Scotty Holtmeyer.
What's going on, all you LeatherBrainz out there? You brainiacs, rather. This is LeatherBrainz. As always, your host, Slapdog. And finally, I have my very good friend, Yeti, back in the studio. Yeti, you got married. Congratulations. Or
Yep.
I'm sorry for you, depending upon the flip of the coin there. And then you went on your honeymoon. So tell us a little bit about that. How was your honeymoon, brother? Congratulations.
Yeah, man. Thanks. You know, you guys aren't looking at a ghost. I promise. This is a real Yeti. This is me. The only thing that's changed is I got a ring. Unlike, unlike Justin Herbert or Jalen Hurts, I actually got one on my finger. And I came back with a little bit of a tan. So
yeah,
you're looking at a tan refined Yeti. But no, everything was great, man. I mean,
good.
We went to the Dominican for about a week.
Nice.
Legit just paradise. The beaches felt pure like cocaine. When you walked on them, they just crumbled under your feet.
Stick your nose
I don't
in it a
do
little bit.
cocaine. I've never been around cocaine. It's just kind of, I've heard it in movies and heard it from people.
Yeah.
But the water was blue. Just perfect, man. We were on the beach. We had people bringing us drinks. Had so much good food.
That's the life, man. Like, you just sit on the beach, people bring you drinks, and you just get hammered drunk. Like, that sounds like paradise. And
for 6 days too, man.
Educate me for just one moment. There was the Mama Jamma or whatever. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know how to say it. But
Mama Wana.
There is some drink,
not marijuana,
DR that it supposedly gets you beyond trash. Is that the case?
Yes. So every time I would meet somebody in the Dominican, like, so they're natives of the Dominican, they'd be like, what drink should I get? So I asked our butler that, I asked our bartender that, I asked anybody. Yeah. And they were all like, do not get the Mama Wana.
See, which is interesting because Scotty specifically, I think, told you to get the Mama Wana or whatever this thing is called.
No, Alan did. Scotty said to stay away from it because Scotty didn't like it. Yeah, but what Mama Wana is a rum/wine drink that is infused with a bunch of different Dominican herbs and woods. And it was originally used as medicine. But then people started just drinking it all the time, I guess, in the Dominican. Okay. And this was told to us on a tour that we went on. Okay. He said that people were just getting drunk off of this and they were just having a good old time and they were happy. So then they started advertising it as alcohol. And it legit tastes like licorice wine, kind of.
Is it good? I mean, like, did you enjoy the taste
of
it?
I enjoyed it. Yes, okay. I enjoyed it. And it does have medicinal properties to it, which... if you look it up on the internet, I'm not making this up. It's kind of referred to as a man's Viagra.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. This is a little bit different of a... Okay.
Yeah.
Is that... Can you confirm that or did you try it?
I mean, I can't confirm it downstairs, but you know, my arms got a little shaky. They were like pulsating, kind of like I was like flexing nonstop. So it was a interesting, cool experience. So if you go to the Dominican and you're at least 18, give it a shot. I highly recommend it.
Mama Joanna's,
and they say it's a baby maker drink too. But
I'm happy you had a good time. I'm happy that it was beautiful. I'm happy you got to drink copious amounts of alcohol and spend time with your now wife. But the most important question I think we need to be asking ourselves is, did you have time to follow any sort of football that was going on? Because
man. The grind never stops.
Okay. All right.
The grind never stops. I mean, we were sitting at our wedding day and I was like getting fed college football playoff information.
Oh
So
God, that hurt. That was just rough for TCU players. Yes.
yeah. And the
But
next day, we were watching football.
yeah.
And I think the last time I was on the podcast, fantasy football was still going on. So
Yeah, no, you've been away for quite a bit.
congratulations to anyone who has won their championship in the past 3 weeks.
It's good to have you back, brother.
Yeah,
We're
man.
excited. We have a fun-filled episode here. So for those of you joining us, we're going to delve into the Monday night recaps of the Monday night football game featuring Dallas and Tampa Bay. We're going to do a recap on that. And then Yeti and I are both going to have some discussions about the divisional round matchups because this is it. This is the rest of the NFL fantasy season. So for all of you joining us, we do greatly appreciate it. And Yeti, I think it is probably just time
Let's get down to business.
Let's kick it off, brother. So let's talk about the Dallas versus Tampa game. Dallas wins this game 31-14. I'm assuming you got to see this. You were back in the States.
Yep.
What a game, dude.
Oh, man.
What an absolute pisser of a game for Tampa. And Dallas looked good. Like, what did you see in this game?
So I felt like I watched all the games this weekend, and I felt like we got great games across the board. And then Monday night hit, and we were all expecting probably a close game, probably a close, low-scoring game. But my God, Dallas, they look like the real deal, man. I would just like to say that I was the only daddy brain to pick Dallas to win this game. So pat on my back, congrats, Yeti.
Yeah, good job.
That was me.
Sorry,
but my God, like Dallas
whiskey went down the wrong hole.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. Sorry. So yes, you did pick correctly. I think you were the only one that did. What was the most surprising thing to you watching this game? Like what really stood out to you is like, holy shit, I didn't see that coming, or something that just really sticks out in your mind when you think about this game?
Honestly, the only thing I was surprised about is the performance of Dak. I mean, I picked Dallas to win the game because I've watched Tampa Bay's offense all year, and this offense does not have any life to it at all when it faces legit teams. And that's exactly what they ran into Monday night when they faced Dallas, who is a legit defense, and they were getting all over Tom Brady. But Dak Prescott, he had probably the game of his life, honestly. 4 touchdowns, no picks. Like he didn't do anything flashy. He was just controlling the game, and that's all he needed to do. And that's what surprised me.
So let me ask you this, because it comes as no surprise to anybody that Tom Brady is a topic of conversation. Do you blame this loss on Tom Brady? Do you blame part of it on Tom Brady? What are you thinking here as far as why this Tampa team was unsuccessful against the Cowboys?
I think part of it is on Tom Brady, obviously, because he is a quarterback. Quarterbacks are going to get the blame no matter what happens. And as we've seen all season, Tom Brady just kind of looks a step slower. It's not like he was getting sacked a bunch or like he didn't have as much time to throw. He just wasn't making the right throws.
See, and I it's interesting you bring this up because, and I don't have the metrics in front of me to be able to back up my argument, but I, like any NFL fan, I did watch this game, and it looked to me like his offensive line was not giving him a lot of time, and kind of what I had seen. And like I said, I don't have the metrics in front of me, but Tom Brady is known for being one of the best quarterbacks at getting the ball out of his hands quickly. Why? Because he doesn't want to get hit. But it looked like he really did not have a lot of time for his receivers. And so I think there's a couple things here that and I don't know this definitively, but just based upon what I was watching, his receivers were not getting the separation that they needed for Tom Brady to make the throws. So that's check one. Check two, his offensive line was not giving him enough time. And Micah Parsons was absolutely dominant in this game. Like he was disrupting Tom Brady and he was disrupting the timing with him and his receivers because he was getting back there so quickly. So I don't want to blame Tom Brady for everything. Yes, like you mentioned, he's a quarterback. He's somebody who is going to brunt some of the blame because that is what you do in the quarterback position. But I don't know, and I'm curious as to your thoughts here because Tom Brady, there's the rumor mills have started spinning. I wrote an article that Tom Brady's going to the Jets. Do you think that Tom Brady's done here? Like, do you think this was the end of the era of Tom Brady in this game?
I think this was the end of Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. And I
Okay.
say that because they're going to lose over half of their starters due to free agency, or
Mhm.
they are due to be free agents, obviously. And I mean, he's kind of maxed out this offense, in my opinion. He
Yeah.
went to Tampa Bay and he like hand built this team basically. When he had came, they had a stout offensive line. They had, playoff Lenny was 2-3 years younger,
Yep.
and Mike Evans was younger, obviously, but they had a young and great defense. And yes,
Mhm.
they still do, but they're going to lose some of that in
In
the
free
offseason.
agency. Yeah.
And so I think, while I don't know if he's going to the Jets, I don't know where he's going. I do agree with you that, when he's looking for new teams, he probably is going to be like, okay, who gives me the best chance to win?
Mhm.
Because I only have another year or two left.
Exactly.
Realistically, the Jets do make a lot of sense because that defense is legit. Not
Mhm.
only that, but they are surrounded by weapons, like you alluded to in that amazing Substack article.
Thank
Check
you.
it out if you haven't yet. But honestly, like I think he is done. He's tapped out in Tampa.
Yeah. So, you being a Raiders fan, let's talk about this for a moment because we're on the Tom Brady conversation here. There's a lot of rumors that Tom Brady could end up in the Raiders. Like, is that something you would be excited about? Is that something you want? And is that something you think is within the realm of possibility?
I was hoping you would ask me this question because I started mulling over it this morning when I was kind of thinking about our podcast today. And I was trying to find excuses for Tom Brady this season because I just have this feeling, and I'm not I can't think of the word right now, but I believe the NFL kind of has a script to it. And what better way for Tom Brady to end his career than with the Raiders in a Josh McDaniels system? He's going to build up the Raiders offense or the Raiders team. They're going to get all these amazing free agents. Gronk is going to come back. They're going to trade away Darren Waller. And the Super Bowl is in Las Vegas next year. So he's going to end his season in Las Vegas with the Super Bowl. Wow, that's a fairy tale. I don't know, honestly. I don't know how to feel because, like you alluded to, his offensive line was in and out of the rotation all season. He was losing guys left and right. Not only that, but you had Chris Godwin coming off of major ACL surgery, obviously. And he looked good, but it took him a few weeks to get going. And then you had Mike Evans, who had the drops. He had the drops all season. So it's not all Tom Brady's fault. Does he look a step slower? Yes. But is his mind still there? Yes. And if you give him time to throw, I think he can pick apart defenses still. So I don't know if he will be with the Raiders. I would be if he did go to the Raiders.
Here's my next question. Here's my follow-up because I don't believe he'll go to the Raiders just because
he's going to the Jets.
He's going to go to the Jets, very obviously. But whether that happens or not, like I think that Tom Brady is going to go. It's no surprise to anybody that knows Tom Brady and knows his game style. He likes to go to places where they have a good defense because that sets him up to be able to feel a little bit more comfortable in his offensive game. So the Raiders, you guys were bottom, and I'm not taking jabs at you, but the Raiders defense is horrible. They were one of the worst in the NFL this year. And I don't see that getting to the point where they're going to be like a top 5 defense in the following year. Like you're going to have to build up to that point. And looking at things, the 49ers are another conversation topic for Tom Brady. I think the Raiders are actually, there's a Vegas favor out there right now that is, I think the Raiders are one of the leading candidates for it, as well as the 49ers. I think the Jets are 3rd or 4th, but you look at it from that perspective, like I think the Jets make a lot of sense. And I'm not going to sit here and try and sell you. I wrote the article. Go check it out on Substack or go hit our link in our Twitter profile at LeatherBrainz, and you can read the whole thing. Truthfully, I'm not going to try and sell you on this, but I just don't see the Raiders being a good fit. Given everything they've got going on, they've struggled to stay healthy with a lot of their pieces. Josh Jacobs sounds like he's not going to come back. So like there's all these moving parts. Derek Carr very obviously is not going to be there, which is why we're kind of having this conversation. But as a Raiders fan, do you believe that like a rebuild is on the precipice and like that's kind of where this organization is trending?
It really depends on what happens with the quarterback situation. this offseason, in my opinion, because say they do opt to get a veteran like Tom Brady or even Aaron Rodgers for that matter. I think if they were to go out and get one of those two guys, they have a lot of money to spend.
Mhm.
Now, I'm thinking Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, they both know their worth right now.
Mhm.
I could be completely wrong when I say this, but I think they would take team-friendly deals if it meant that they were going to build up the Raiders' defense, because there's not a lot of elite wide receivers to add. And I mean, the Raiders are already set at wide receivers. So I think they would spend a lot of money on the offensive line and the defense. So if they do go for one of those quarterbacks, I think they are in it to win it like this year or this coming season.
Yeah.
But if they don't do anything, if they don't sign any any veteran quarterbacks that could win now, they're going to draft a quarterback, and it's going to be a complete rebuild.
You think they sell Adams?
I don't think they would right away. I think they would by the trade deadline once they realize they were kind of out of the playoff contention, or if they were just a bottom team. Okay. But it'll just depend on what happens come NFL draft time, which we'll have full coverage of.
Yes, absolutely. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers, and I know this has nothing to do with the Monday night coverage, but you mentioned Aaron Rodgers. He went on Pat McAfee's show and stated, he feels as if he could win another MVP, another MVP, whether that be with the Packers or somebody else. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of conversation this offseason about the quarterback roulette that's about to ensue, because there are roughly 1/3 of the teams in the NFL that are going to be looking for a quarterback. Like that is a realistic conversation that I'm sure we will have ad nauseum almost. But do you think Aaron Rodgers comes back to the Packers next year? He demanded a shit ton of money. He got it, but they couldn't afford to pay anybody else anything. So what does the outlook for Aaron Rodgers look like come 2023?
Man, I honestly don't think that he's going to be with Green Bay anymore.
You think he plays though?
I do think he plays. Okay. It's not going to be with Green Bay though. Their biggest issue on the offensive side, at least, was they didn't have wide receiver play, obviously. And if you look at the free agents this season, the top wide receiver is Jacoby Meyer, which I'm not taking anything away from him.
What about Juju?
Okay, still, I'm not going to take any away from these guys, but when those are the top options in the free agency, it's slim pickings unless the Packers trade. But they have shown Aaron Rodgers over the years that they don't give a fuck about what he wants. They're going to do what they're going to do.
Sure.
So I think his control is kind of out the window with Green Bay, and he's going to look for his way out. Now, you mentioned the Jets. That could be an interesting landing spot for him.
And I've heard that too. I would
even the Colts, honestly.
Yeah, the Colts would be fun. Aaron Rodgers is one of those quarterbacks who, the Colts tried it once already, and that's why I don't know if they'll have hesitation towards doing it again, because they went to go get a vet. They got Matt Ryan, and that experiment failed miserably. We saw it all happen. But Aaron Rodgers is not Matt Ryan. Aaron Rodgers is a lot better than Matt Ryan. Aaron Rodgers is somebody who I think could be the game script manager that they had hoped Matt Ryan would be. I like the Colts, but the question at hand is, do you feel as if you have a Super Bowl caliber team and all you need is a quarterback? I think the Jets are closer to that than the Colts are at this point, because the Colts, I think they need some offensive line restructuring and healing and some help there. And Michael Pittman has looked great. Alec Pierce has looked wonderful, but I think the Jets are set up better to succeed all around the ball. I think the Jets, if they get a good big name quarterback, like if Derek, and I'm saying this, if Derek Carr goes to the Jets, I'm not nearly as excited about the Jets as if somebody like Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady went there, because what the Jets need is a good quarterback, because they have youthful talent in so many other places. So that I was just curious to pick your brain on some of those things. I don't want to, like I said, I know we're going to talk about this ad nauseum in the offseason, and the implications for fantasy football are going to be immense, but let's move on. Let's go ahead and talk about the upcoming games that we got here. So we'll kick it off with the Jaguars versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 9-point favorites with an over-under 52.5 points. What are you thinking about this game, Yeti?
Yeah, so this game is going to be very interesting. I think, since we're not a Chiefs podcast, I can see this game shooting out.
Okay.
And I think our fellow Daddy Brains can agree with us on this
Yes.
one. I really do think it's going to be a high scoring affair. And I'm kind of scared for Chiefs fans on this one
I
because
think
the
you should be.
Jaguars, like Alan said on Tuesday's episode, that the Jaguars are playing with house money at this point, and they have nothing to lose. And they've also played the Chiefs already this year. They know what it takes to maybe try to beat Patrick Mahomes. I do think the Chiefs are going to win, but it's going to be really close from a Jaguar perspective.
Yeah.
I think what Jacksonville needs to do to win this game is they're going to have to establish the run early and often. I say that because they need to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field.
Yeah.
But if they establish the run, they're also going to be set up to run play action. They're going to set up throwing lanes for Sunshine. So we'll see what happens, man.
I agree with you, man. I think if you're a Chiefs fan, you have to go into this game with some hopeful optimism, but you also have to understand the situation that is looming over you, because Sarah Jessica Parker is is he the comeback king? Like, that is a conversation that I think is being had in a lot of media rooms and ESPN and NFL analysts and all these people. Like, look at it. They've done it. They did it. They did it last week against the Jaguars. Yeah, it's the Jaguars, and I understand that. But the Chiefs defense is not wonderful. We are not a Chiefs podcast. You and I are both not Chiefs fans. We can have an open and honest conversation about this because both Scotty and Alan are not here, and I'm totally okay with that. I do think the Chiefs win this game. I'm going to say it. But I think, and I would not be surprised if the Jaguars made this interesting and or it came down to the wire and the Jaguars ended up winning this one. I will tell you this. If you are a Jaguars fan, if you are betting on the Jaguars, if you're rooting for the Jaguars in any way, shape, or form, if you give up the ball 4 times, you will not win this game, period. You won't. And that is something that happened last week. And then Sarah Jessica Parker decided to condition his hair at halftime and came out with the locks flowing, him throwing, and they won that game. But I just don't see that happening if they turn the ball over that much. So he has to be locked in all game.
And I have to say, Jacksonville, they won that game because the Chargers couldn't do anything in the second half.
Yeah.
But the Chargers, they only had the ball 4 times in the second half because Jacksonville's offense was controlling the game.
Mm-hmm.
And something I noted in that game too is that even when Jacksonville was down big in the first half, they never strayed away from the run. And that played huge dividends later on in that game because Sunshine looked great and Travis Etienne was running the ball effectively because that D-line was tired. And I think that's something that they're going to have to do again this week to beat Kansas City. Keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. Play smart football. Don't throw 4 fucking picks. Maybe do it because that worked last time. But
it's just like at this point you
that's a cheat
away
code.
From the norm. It might be. It might be. This team saw each other back in week 10. Chiefs won this game 27-17. I expect this game to be close. I do. And I think as we go through this progression for the divisional round, I think we're going to find that for probably a couple games here. I expect the Chiefs to win this game. Who do you have winning this one?
I also have the Chiefs winning this game. But I just want to note that Doug Peterson, he's 6-0 against the spread as a postseason underdog. So if you are a betting man and you're feeling frisky, I might look at the Jaguars spread on this, honestly. But I do too. I don't think it's going to be as big of a blowout as their earlier matchup was.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's move on here. Let's move on to a game that I'm very, very excited to talk about. The Giants versus the Eagles. Eagles have a week of rest due to the fact that they won they got the first round bye. Giants ended up winning the game last week. Total Vegas line is 48 total points, and Eagles are favored by 7.5. What are your initial thoughts on this?
So initially, I was thinking that the Eagles were just gonna blow away the Giants.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's kind of what everybody's initial thoughts were. But division games are so hard, especially in the playoffs. Like those games are super intense. And so if the Giants can keep it close, like if it's a one possession game going into like the third or like midway the third, early fourth, I think the Giants, they're another team that's playing with house money. I think the Giants can make this really interesting. Um, I know last week they played the Vikings, who the Vikings have a shitty
The leaky
defense,
defense. Yep,
very
absolutely.
terrible defense, and the Eagles' defense might be the best defense left in the postseason. But the Eagles, they're also coming off a week of rest. Like, yes, that's beneficial, but you're also playing against a hot team that is coming off a huge win. Like that team is going to be ecstatic to play on Saturday. So it's interesting.
You mentioned the Eagles are coming off of a week of rest. Jalen Hurts has carried an injury designation the last couple weeks due to, I want to say it was his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
He is no longer on the IR, or not on the IR, but on the injury report as far as carrying any injury designation. So my question to you is do you think this is going to be an issue for Jalen Hurts coming into this week? Because very obviously it's not like everything's healed in 1 week and everything's back to normal. Like, is this something that you have any concern over as far as his usability and gameplay in this upcoming matchup?
A little bit. I know he tried to play week 18, which that game was kind of meaningless. So I don't know how much he was actually trying, but he didn't look the greatest in that matchup against the Giants. And so you have to think the Giants they're probably ecstatic right now. Like, we get to play the Eagles again. We just lost to them by 6 points. Like, we have a real shot at winning this thing. And I'm a little concerned for Jalen Hurts. But what concerns me even more is that their left tackle, Lane Johnson, he's going to try to play this game with, I think he has like a torn groin, or he has a groin issue going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the Giants were getting after Kirk Cousins last week is a concern, man.
Concerning, sure. Yeah, and you mentioned that he did not look great in week 18. There was a play that stands out in my mind. I don't have the clip of it to share with everybody, but he scrambled. And instead of lowering his shoulder and or trying to get the first down, it was very close. He just slid, and he did not do that. He was saving himself, and I think, and I would be surprised if we didn't see him giving it his all in this game. Whether that be him, he very clearly he's not 100%, and we all know that he has some injury with his shoulder, and that is not healed. But this is it. It's shit or get off the pot moment for both teams, realistically. And so I think we're going to see the best out of both of them. Yes, I think we are going to see him lower the shoulder, get the first down if it's a very meaningful moment, and it continues the drive for success for the Eagles. I think this is it. This is all the football. And no matter if it's the Giants, Eagles, Jaguars, Chiefs, like, it's winning in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do that, then it's game over and your season is over. So I think the mentality may have been shifted a little bit. I am interested to see how they come out. I have the Eagles winning this one. I don't know if you share that same sentiment, because I think this could be a very close game. But I think the Eagles are probably one of the most complete teams in the NFL. Yes, as you mentioned, they're struggling a little bit with injury, and I fully understand that. But overall, they're a really good freaking NFL team, and I expect them to win this game.
Yep, and I agree with you. I do think the Eagles are going to win this game, but there is reason to be concerned here with the Giants team.
Yep.
The Eagles, they're also getting their starting safety back this week, who's been gone for a month, and they're getting Robert Quinn, who is one of their best pass rushers, back this game too. So while they're a little iffy on offense, they're getting some of their defensive stars back, which they're fucking loaded everywhere on defense. So
Yeah, for sure. And then, you have been a very vocal supporter of Brian Daboll all throughout the last offseason into this season. And you have been a strong supporter of the Giants. Truth be told, Brian Daboll kind of quote unquote unlocked Josh Allen with the Bills. He was in, and I don't want to attribute Josh Allen's success to Brian Daboll, but there could or could not be some links there that are connected Is Daniel Jones the Josh Allen light in your opinion? The light version of Josh Allen?
Did you see that dude's neck muscles on Sunday against the Vikings? That dude was looking beefy, like he's trying to juice up to Josh Allen standards. But truth be told, like Daniel Jones is a big dude. He's 6'5", 230 pounds. Like, good luck fucking tackling that guy. But in all honesty, I do think he is kind of Josh Allen light, and we've seen it this season. Yeah. Daniel Jones, he's ran the ball the most in his career this season. He's run for over 700 yards in the regular season. That's a career high as well. Yeah. And what does Josh Allen do? He fucking scrambles, and he has all these design runs, quarterback power, quarterback sweep. Like, those are the same things that they were doing with Daniel Jones. And I remember telling you in the offseason, this Brian Daboll offense is going to make Daniel Jones a lot better because they are going to do things that benefit Daniel Jones, such as they're going to do more screen passes. They're going to do more slant routes. They're going to do a lot of short intermediate routes that are easy, high completion routes for Daniel Jones. And that's exactly what they did this whole season. If you look at Daniel Jones's career stats from a average depth of target standpoint, so that means the yards per target, basically, for Daniel Jones. He's throwing it 8 yards. On average, every throw he's throwing it 8 yards. So they are looking to complete these short intermediate routes, like I kind of said. And that's benefited him so much because he doesn't have to chuck the ball 20, 30 yards.
Do you think that's a detriment to the fact that they don't have a lot of wide receiver tools in their toolbox to be able to spread the field?
And that very well could be the case. But I also think Brian Daboll is smart enough to know that we just need to get Daniel Jones in a rhythm. Let's get him these easy completions. He's going to start feeling it. And then let's feed Saquon.
Yeah. And those are the two weapons. Both of them are on contract years. So it's going to be interesting this offseason to see if they come back. I believe that Daniel Jones, bare minimum, will. Saquon gets a little more interesting, but there is probably an argument to be made that Saquon could be back in this offense again next year as well. Let me ask you this for fantasy football, because this is how this podcast all started, was we are a fantasy football podcast. Josh Allen. He got Stephon Diggs, kind of quote unquote unlocked him for fantasy football reasons. You have somebody like Kyler Murray, who has Hopkins there, has helped him immensely. Kirk Cousins, top tier quarterback for fantasy football purposes, large in part due to Justin Jefferson, Justin Herbert. I mean, the list goes on, right? If the Giants this offseason sign a big name wide receiver, maybe DeAndre Hopkins even, does Daniel Jones get more spicy as a potential late round pick for fantasy football purposes?
I think I have said this in our LeatherBrainz chat. I think every time we talk about D-Hop getting traded, I say he's going to the Giants. I'm going to speak it into fucking existence. I promise.
Baby. I'm doing it with Tom Brady and the Jets.
Yes, he is going to the Giants. But if for whatever reason D-Hop does not, and they do sign another big name wide receiver or trade for another wide receiver, I do think Daniel Jones's ADP is going to be probably around Jalen Hurts's this past offseason. We saw Jalen Hurts go in the 6th round. I could see Daniel Jones being in that 6th to 8th round, honestly, because he was a top 10 quarterback this year.
Yeah. And he had no wide receivers.
Exactly. You look at his rushing production.
Yep.
We're going to be hyping him up hugely in the offseason. I promise you, every fantasy site, every fantasy podcast is going to be saying the same thing. Look at Daniel Jones. And I promise you, he is going to be in that 6th to 8th round if they do get a wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think he should be. I think that the rushing upside is there. Brian Daboll very clearly knows what he is doing systematically with his quarterbacks in an offense that, for large in part, should not succeed. The Giants should not be this far along as they are. And I'm just saying that. Like, the Giants should not be as good as they are. They have nothing offensively. They have a quarterback who, by the way, Giants fans were actively booing last year. And then they have a running back that, quote unquote, struggles to stay healthy. And that's it. They traded away Kadarius Toney, their wide receiver in Robinson, Wan'Dale Robinson. He got injured, and they have nothing. They picked up Isaiah Hodgins off of the waiver wire, I believe.
Yep.
That's how like unskilled they are in their wide receiver core. Their offense should not be good, and yet he's getting it done. I think that is a huge detriment. Hats off to Brian Dable. Yeti, I'm getting on the train.
Yeah, man. My uncle, he is a huge Giants fan, and I've talked to him about this before too. And he was saying, this year we're just playing with fool's gold. He was like, I honestly didn't think we would be this good this early. I thought it would take a season in this offense, or with this new offense, new system in place. But he's obviously full on board. But he was like, if we get a wide receiver, we are gonna make some noise next season.
Yeah,
and if they do, I might lock them in to win the NFC East. That's a hot take.
No, I don't hate it though.
That defense looks legit.
It does.
They're gonna have another year under their belt on both sides of the ball. They get a wide receiver. What weakness does that team have?
Agreed. And I like I said, I'm all on board the Brian Dable train, baby. Because let's ride, baby. And to top it all off, Erin Andrews, of all people, if you don't listen to her podcast, it's a good listen. But she was talking about Brian Dable. And I just want to highlight this, and we'll move on to the next game. And if you haven't seen it, there's a clip out there somewhere. Just Google it. I'm sure it'll pop up. But it was Erin Andrews, and she was talking about an interview she did with Brian Dable. And it made me have so much more respect for Brian Dable. And basically the premise was Brian Dable understands that whether it be somebody who cleans their clothes, a janitor, and or a player, an offensive coordinator, no matter what the situation, whenever they come into his office, that is the most important thing on that person's mind. And she does a much better job explaining it than I'm going to, but that person, whoever it is going to meet Brian Dable, they have been stewing on it for weeks. It has been eating at them. And when they walk in that room, there's a reason that they are doing so. And Brian Dable said this to Erin Andrews, and he said that is the most important thing to them. No matter what the case is, it has been eating at them. I am the leader. I am the head coach, and I need to sit down and listen to what they have to say, because if they have the balls, quote unquote, to walk in and have a conversation with me about something, I need to be all ears, because that is the most important thing to this person. And to me, I was just taken aback by that, and I said, that is somebody I want to follow till the end of hell. All ends of the earth, because that is somebody who understands the position they're in, recognizes it for what it is, and wants to do the absolute best that they can. And so I have all the respect for Brian Dable. He has entered the coaching carousel for me as one of my favorites now, and I just could not have more respect for that man. So, and that has nothing to do with his success on the field, but that is just the position he's in, recognizing it for what it is. And I loved hearing that. So go listen to it. Google Erin Andrews, Brian Dable interview. It is really, really cool. So that's it. Let's move on, Yeti. I don't want to see any tears shed out of your eyes, but we're going to talk about the Bengals versus the Bills. So Brian Dable's former team, they get the win. Actually, they barely had the win against the Dolphins here.
Yeah, they should have lost that game.
It was bad. What are your initial thoughts on this thing, man? Because that was a very, very scary game.
Honestly, both of these teams should have lost last week. If you ask me the truth, I think if Miami, or if Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle catch half of those fucking passes in the first half,
Jalen didn't get any.
They didn't have any catches. They had a shit ton of drops, though. I remember seeing that. I think if they catch half of those targets, they win the game.
Yeah.
And that's what they only lost by
third string quarterback. That is what they Skylar Thompson, third string quarterback. So obviously, for all of you who know, Tua Tagovailoa is still in concussion protocol. They're trying to figure that out. And Teddy Bridgewater, I believe, is also in concussion protocol. Yep. And so they're on the third string quarterback, and the third string quarterback almost beat the Bills. So this is what I find interesting, Eddie. The Bills are actually favored in this one, minus 4.5 points. The total over under is 48 points in this. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, do you think the Bills are going to pull this out? Do you think the Bengals have a really good chance? Because last week it was I think it was a huge eyesore for Bills fans and Bills Mafia in general.
I want to say the Bills are going to win.
Okay.
That's the way I've been leaning for the past few days that we've been talking about it. But it's tough, man. It really is tough because last week's performance did not give me any hope in the Bills.
Yeah.
Their offensive line gave up 7 sacks, 13 quarterback hits. Josh Allen also threw 2 picks and he lost a fumble. Buffalo has committed 3 turnovers in each of its last 3 games. And Josh Allen has thrown 5 picks in the last 3 games. That is a problem.
That is a huge problem.
That is a huge problem. But on the flip side, you have a Cincinnati offensive line that is going to be without 3 of 5 starters. That's a problem.
That's a huge problem. And I'm glad you brought this up because that is the Bengals O-line has really struggled all this entire season. And this was one of their pain points last year. In the Super Bowl, Joe Burrow got sacked, I think 4 or 5. I think it was 4 times is the number. That was my detriment to the Bengals going into the Super Bowl game is Joe Burrow was one of the most sacked quarterbacks last year. Then all offseason, you rode the hype train. And guess what? I got on board as well. Right? We were all on board. They fixed their O-line. They got some new pieces in. This was going to be the key to their success because that was one of the painstaking points in the Bengals offense was their O-line was letting Joe Burrow get sacked as much as he was. They got some new pieces in. They're going to be great. Joe Mixon's a huge buy, and Joe Mixon was fine. But the O-line has not looked incredible all year, right? And so they're missing 3 of their starters. This is very worrisome, I think. Burrow is the 6th most sacked quarterback on the year. So do you think this is where the Bills could find a huge advantage?
Yes. Like they are going to have to get after Joe Burrow with their front 4 because they can bring blitzes, but I think Joe is just going to cook through them. Yeah. And playoff Joe, he's a different guy, man. I think he's going to find those windows no matter what happens. And even watching last week, Skylar Thompson do what he did against his secondary, and he was making all the right throws. It just his receivers couldn't hold on to the ball for half the fucking game. Yeah. Seeing those receivers get that open, that makes me kind of lean towards the Bengals, man, because they have the wide receivers to make Buffalo pay if they can't get to Joe Burrow in time.
I have the Bengals winning this one. I'm going to be honest. I think I was we as a LeatherBrainz team went in and we all had suggested who was supposed to win, who we thought was going to win, and the total scores. And I think I was the only person to take the Bengals. Yeah. I really do think that the Bengals are going to win this one. And I'm not saying this to try and sway you. I want you to follow your heart. But I'm saying this because I think the Bengals they're playing better. I don't want to say they're a better team, but I think with Von Miller being out for the rest of the season with, I believe it was an ACL, that is a huge detriment to this Bills defense, and that is a big problem. The Bills defense did not look incredible last week. They didn't. They had times where they looked great, but when you're playing against a third-string quarterback in a playoff matchup, I expect the Bills to be electric, and they were not at all. Neither offensively or defensively. Very obviously, they got the win. Their offense was able to get it done. But the Bengals are a much better team overall than the Dolphins, plain and simple. Okay? This is the Damar Hamlin game that we all wish we could have seen a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, we all know the situation that happened with Damar Hamlin. Thank God he is doing well. He is healthy, and he is okay. But the Bengals were winning that one, 7-3. And the game had not progressed long enough, but this was the game we were all very excited for. I know I was in that camp. I'm sure you completely were in that same camp as well. This was a playoff matchup in the regular season that everybody was super excited for. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, we didn't get to see this game. So here we are. We're in the playoffs, and this is winning in for either team. And I don't see the Bills getting it done. Josh Allen is leading the league in turnovers this year. And I that is very concerning to me.
It's funny because I'm sitting over here and I'm thinking, and I was going to ask you this, is it wrong that or is it bad that I don't trust Josh Allen to lead me to the Super Bowl?
It's funny you mention that. And you and I have had a lot of conversation off screen and off podcast. Maybe Brian Dable's a part of that. Maybe Brian Dable is somebody who was able to calm the nerves, sit down with Josh Allen, look over what's going on, and say, "Hey, look, this is do this, this, and this." Because, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Josh Allen. I really am not. He is a great quarterback. He is a franchise quarterback. But he's also leading the league in turnovers. And I think a lot of people don't really want to talk about that side of things. And I think that is something that needs to be annotated because that is a problem.
Which is funny because I feel like if Patrick Mahomes was doing the same shit, or Tom Brady even for that matter, it would be all over
the media. But it's Josh Allen, right? And Josh Allen, he's, and for fantasy purposes, yeah, very obviously you're not going to stray away from him because he has so much upside. But the Bengals defense is legit. I think Eli Apple got banged up last game, and I'm curious to see if he plays, and that's going to have to be something we're going to have to see as things progress. But, like, the Bengals defense is no joke, and the Bengals offense very clearly is no joke. Granted, they do have some issues at offensive line that we touched on, but, like, I think the Bengals are going to win this. If the Bill and I'm going to say this, there's an asterisk sign there. If the Bills play like they did against the Dolphins, there's absolutely no way in hell they win this game.
Right.
Period.
Yep. And it's hard, because in the NFL, especially in the postseason, every week looks different. Teams are going to game script differently. Teams are going to look at, their flaws from the previous week. But there was a lot of room for wide receivers to feast in that secondary. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Miami's pass rush was causing that much disruption on the Buffalo offensive line is a huge concern for me.
Absolutely.
This is new for Josh Allen. And look at what he did last week. He had 3 turnovers himself. And he's, like you said, he's thrown a shit ton of picks. And it's hard for me to trust him over Joe Burrow, which in the postseason, you're looking at who has the better quarterback for the most part.
Yeah. And if I was a franchise, look, I'm a Cardinals fan, very obviously we're in shambles right now. If I had to choose a quarterback as a franchise quarterback, I think I'd rather have Josh Allen than Joe Burrow, solely for the fact of immobility's purposes, because I think if you take some of Joe Burrow's weapons away from him in both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, this offense looks a little different. And I'm not trying to, I like Joe Burrow. I think he is going to be a very successful quarterback in this league for a long time. But I personally, as a franchise person, would rather have Josh Allen just due to the talent.
And guys like Josh Allen, the only argument on Josh Allen is guys like him, they don't last that long in the league.
Correct. But guys like him also aren't as freaking huge as he is. They are. And Josh Allen also, I think, there's a comparison, and I know we're going to talk about this ad nauseum. Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is his contract is up with the Ravens. And so I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to be back with the Ravens next year. And we'll touch on that way later, but I'm going to throw that out there into the void. I would rather have Josh Allen than Lamar Jackson because I think Josh Allen has a better arm. And I think Josh Allen makes smarter decisions with the ball. And so you take all that into account. I would rather have Josh Allen than Joe Burrow because Josh Allen will run when he needs to. The only thing that Josh Allen needs to do that Patrick Mahomes learned, don't take unnecessary hits.
Yep.
Slide, run out of bounds, do whatever you need to do, but do not take those unnecessary hits unless the game is on. And if there is more stakes on the line, then obviously that changes things. Like if you're in a playoff divisional match like this one, yeah, things might be different where you have to get the first down or else you could potentially lose the game. Yeah, things are different. But in a regular season game, don't take the unnecessary hits. And I think that is something Josh Allen needs to come to terms with. And part of that is coaching. And I understand all of that. I would rather have Josh Allen, though, for that reason. And I think Josh Allen has a really good arm. I think Joe Burrow's great too. But I would personally prefer Josh Allen. We're going to move on. I'm going to take the Bengals winning this game. Sounds like you're going to take the Bills. Is that fair to say?
As of right now, I am.
Okay. All right. So this is where we differ. This is I'm going to virtually shake your hand. It was a pleasure meeting you here, and we'll see what happens at the end of the road. Let's move on. Godspeed. Cowboys versus the 49ers, another game that is going to be incredibly interesting. This game, I think you and I might differ on this one as well. I'm not entirely sure, but the 49ers are favored by -3.5 points. The over-under is 46 in total. So Vegas has the 49ers winning this one. Do you agree with that, or are you taking the Cowboys?
This one's another one, man. This
It's
is
tough.
the
It's tough,
other
brother.
game where I've been flip-flopping back and forth. I'm going to hang on to my 49ers pick, but I do not feel great about it.
Okay. I'm going to take the 49ers as well, and I do feel good about it. I'm rest assured, Yeti, we're in the same boat for this one, and I do feel very good about the 49ers. This is a rematch of last year's wildcard matchup. San Francisco won this game 23-17. Very obviously, teams change. Things change, and I fully understand that. But we talked about the Cowboys a little bit in the recap for the Monday night game. They were dominant in the victory over the Buccaneers, right? Micah Parsons, he decimated the Bucs O-line, and he gave Tommy Brady no time to get the ball out of his hands. I think the conversation that we need to be having more than anything else throughout the entirety of the rest of this Cowboys 49ers conversation is Mr. Brock Purdy. I think that is the conversation that you and I need to be having. And I don't think we've had it at this point. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the last person drafted in the NFL, has looked pretty damn good. He's looked good. I am not going to take anything away from Brock Purdy. I am in the camp. It all depends on how he plays in this game. What are your thoughts?
On him being the guy going forward?
Not even that. We'll get to that. But like, what do you see as one of the most detrimental parts to who wins this game?
So I do think the big question at hand is how can Brock Purdy perform against a real defense?
Yeah.
And I bring that up because in his 7 games now, he has only played one top 10 defense. That was Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
They handled Tampa Bay in that game. I believe it was like 40-20 or something like that. It was not close at all. But now he's going up against, if you look at the stats, this is a team, a Dallas defense, top 5 almost in every stat possible.
Yeah.
They have guys in the front 7 that will get after you and that can cover as well. When you look at the 49ers, what do they do best? They get their playmakers in space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I fully understand. Super hard to cover. But when you have the weapons that Dallas does on defense, I think they have the ability to cover a Debo. They have the ability to cover Christian McCaffrey with their linebacker play, as well as their secondary.
Here's the thing that I found really interesting, and if you haven't saw it yet, Dan Orlovsky, he actually tweeted at us today. A really, really cool moment for us at LeatherBrainz, but the reason he tweeted at us is because we had quote tweeted him, and I highly implore everybody to go listen to this, to go watch this video, because Dan Orlovsky on NFL Network, he was giving a visual representation of why it is so difficult to cover the 49ers. Go look at it. It is a very, very good tool to understand why, because there's a lot of speculation out there. How was Brock Purdy able to get this done as a rookie quarterback and go this far in the playoffs and do this? Because they have so many weapons around them. There are so many weapons in this 49ers offense, and Dan Orlovsky does a wonderful job in explaining what they do. So in one play, they line Christian McCaffrey up as an X wide receiver, and then they have Deebo Samuel's a running back. And then they snap the ball quickly. Like they are moving so fast that it does not give defenses enough time to even try and diagnose what in the hell is going on for this offensive scheme. The next play, they have Kyle Juszczyk lined out wide, and they have Christian McCaffrey lined up, and they have Debo, and they throw a quick screen. And then the next play, Juszczyk is lined up in the I formation, and they're slamming it down someone's throat. They are able formationally to confuse the ever-living shit out of defenses, and I think that is extremely problematic. I'm not doing a wonderful job explaining it, but I think I'm kind of getting the point across. Go look at the tweet by Dan Orlovsky, because there is visual representation of exactly what is happening, and I think this is very, very, very informational for those that don't understand why Brock Purdy is doing well.
Yeah, it's a 10-minute video, but it gives you a lot of good information on how Kyle Shanahan is running the show there. I don't think Kyle Shanahan gets enough credit for
I
the
agree.
offensive mind that he
Yeah.
is, because he's doing this with Brock Purdy, who is the last pick in the NFL draft. But
Mhm.
he's also done this with guys like Nick Mullen in the
And Jimmy
past,
G.
and Jimmy G.
Let's
Yeah,
not.
like
Yeah.
but something that I thought was interesting from this clip from Dan, is they were talking about how on defense. I mean, you and I were not NFL players by any means. We don't play
We should
defense.
be, but we're
We
not.
probably should be.
Yeah.
But when we played back in our heydays, we were both on the offensive side, so we don't really understand how defenses look at different things. But one thing I took away from that is defenses in the NFL are primarily looking at formations.
Yep.
Okay, the San Francisco is really good at lining their guys up in certain formations, and defenses can't react to that, the personnel, soon enough.
Yes.
Basically, is what I thought was interesting, because even though they run a lot of 2-back sets, they can't see where Debo is. They can't see where Christian McCaffrey is lined up. They're having a scramble to see what the fuck is coming their way, because guys are lined up in different spots. And Kyle Shanahan is doing a wonderful job for Brock Purdy. And
it makes it difficult. It makes it so difficult. And the fact of the matter is not only is he lining these guys up out in positions that they normally shouldn't be in, but they're able to succeed in those positions. Christian McCaffrey has hands. He can catch the damn ball. So, like, that's another problem for these defenses is if Christian McCaffrey runs a 10-yard curl, you have to expect him to be able to catch that ball. It's not like he is a decoy. There is a very realistic possibility that he is going to catch that ball.
And then you might have Debo flaring out of the backfield.
Sure. Yeah. And Debo runs a they might run a screenplay with Debo, because guess what? Debo very obviously has hands because he's a wide receiver, but he also has the reaction time of a running back. So it makes it very, very difficult for defenses to try and figure out what they're doing. And they switch things up so quickly. And so that it's very problematic. Kyle Juszczyk, he's a fullback. They line him up in the slot. He can catch the ball and he can do it decently well. So you, as a defense, you have to take that into consideration, and it makes it very, 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 very problematic for trying to key off of, like you mentioned, trying to key off of a formation and figure things out. That's why I think the 49ers get this one.
Yeah, let me ask you, if Dallas, do you think Dallas's defense can do anything to slow down the offense?
The one of the things that I see, and granted, we're not like giant NFL analysts, we're more fantasy football focused, but one of the things that I see that is very pertinent to me, you have to disrupt the timing. That is one of the things that comes to mind right away. You have got to get to Brock Purdy quickly. And I see that as being problematic because the 49ers offensive line is good. George Kittle not only is a great passing tight end, but he also can block very well. And then, as I mentioned, Kyle Juszczyk, he can block very well as well. And also he can catch the ball and or run it. So they get him involved early and often. If you can disrupt Purdy, that is where I think the Cowboys are going to find the most success. And that's why I think this game is going to be so dang fun, because Micah Parsons came in last week against Tampa and was able to disrupt Tom Brady. Granted, I think the schematically, the Tampa is very different than the 49ers. And I think offensive line wise, it's a very different ball game. But if they can throw Purdy off of his game, I think they're going to find the most success. And that's just me personally. Very obviously, you have to try and minimize the run, because Kyle Shanahan is the offensive coach who wants to run the ball early and often and establish the run. And if you can get them away from that, that is where I think that they're going to kind of be caught on their heels a little bit, because Brock Purdy, and I've said this and I want to reiterate this, Brock Purdy is doing very well. I don't want to take anything away from this young man because he is playing a damn good football. However, you were able to get this done with Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo was not a good quarterback either, which is a further point to Kyle Shanahan and the fact that this is a systematic quarterback offense. If you can find and you can obtain a quarterback that is not going to make mistakes, but also just get the job done, do your check downs. You have so much talent in every other position in this offense. You need the quarterback to just get the job done. That is what Purdy is doing, and he's doing it very well. He's doing it very well. But that's why I also don't think Tom Brady, I'm not trying to spin zone this back to Tom Brady, but Tom Brady, the 49ers, this has been a constant conversation in the media. That's why I don't think Tom Brady goes there, because they don't need Tom Brady. They need somebody who can sit in the pocket and just get the job done. They're doing it with Brock Purdy. Why would they go spend money on Tom Brady? That's my argument. So that is what I see from this team, and what they need to do to succeed is establish the run and give Purdy enough time to get the ball out of his hands and get the ball in their playmakers' hands. That's what I see for the 49ers, and that's how I see the Cowboys trying to stop them.
Yeah. And see, I'm on the 49ers as well. I just think I have a little concern because Seattle, they kind of gave the blueprint, at least in the first half, on how to at least slow down this offense.
Yeah.
They were playing a lot of man coverage, and they were slowing down Brock Purdy. I had said in the group chat, like, they made Brock Purdy look irrelevant, like Mr. Irrelevant for a little bit in that first half, which they did. And then obviously the 49ers weapons were way too much in the second half. But the Cowboys have a far superior defense than the Seahawks, obviously, as we saw, or we've seen all season.
Yep.
And I have concerns with Micah Parsons and that whole front four, because I do think they can get after Brock. Now, I think the main thing that is going to decide this game is what Dak do we get in this game?
And I was just going to ask you that, because I could not agree with you more. Like, let's flip the script for a minute. 49ers very obviously have a wonderful defense. They have a great defense. So what do the Cowboys need to do to try and win this game?
I think Seattle did a pretty good job of this last week, as they were running the ball pretty effectively on the 49ers, which is a hard thing to do. During the regular season and during the fantasy season, we had talked about how you don't run against the 49ers. Like, I think they were like giving up 60 yards per game to running back or something. It was a crazy low
it was right
stat.
around there. Yeah, absolutely.
But last week, Seattle ran for over 100 yards. The week prior, the Raiders ran for over 100 yards as well. So I think what Dallas needs to do, they need to establish the run in a big way. Obviously anybody with eyes knows that Tony Pollard is the more effective back in that backfield. So I think they need to get him going often. And then I think they need to complete short intermediate routes to get Dak going. And then there's room for the Dallas wide receivers to have success. We saw DK Metcalf have a lot of success last week. He had over 100 receiving yards, and that was primarily on the 49ers number one cornerback who came from Kansas City. Shout out KC fans, Charvarius Ward rather. He gave up 98 yards when DK was on him. Now, I know CD primarily plays a slot, and the 49ers have a great slot cover guy, but if they can move CD around and maybe put him on Ward or Lenore, their other cornerback, I think Lamb could have success. We've seen teams pick apart the secondary. Well, not pick apart the secondary, but that's usually where they have more success.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think get the ground game working early, get Pollard going, get Zeke going, and then chuck it down, because the secondary is going to be open. For sure.
And that's one of the things, if Scotty was here, he would be harping on it hardcore right now, is you pass on the 49ers because they're leaky in the pass game. I think this game in large part is going to be determined with the version of Dak that we get, as you kind of hinted at. And Dak this last week looked like a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, plain and simple. He was like, there were some throws I was like, holy, you don't throw that throw. And he did it well. And they executed on all levels against Tampa last week. I think this game is going to largely be determined upon what Dak we get.
Yep.
But overall, I'm still taking the 49ers because I believe in Kyle Shanahan. This offense is just too damn tricky to try and figure out on the fly, and that's going to make it a pain in the ass for these defenses. So this could come out to a shootout, I think, and I'm excited for it. I think this game could go either way, but if my heart of hearts is telling me 49ers.
I think the opposite. Like the 49ers are going to win, but I think it's going to be a low scoring game.
You think it's
Or
gonna be low?
maybe even similarly to what we saw last year. I know two different teams, but 23-17 could be a very real possibility.
So the over-under is 46. You're taking the under on 46?
Yeah, I think both of these defenses are just legit. And I think both teams can control the time of possession. So there's not going to be many series for these guys to work.
Okay, we'll see. I'll take the over. You know what? I'll be on the flip side of the coin on this one. I'll take the over, but are you taking the 49ers or Cowboys?
Yep, I'm still taking the 49ers.
Okay, I'm taking the 49ers as well. So I think the only place that we differ was the Bills-Bengals.
Yep.
All right.
Which I might flip before the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have until, I think, Friday before Scotty gets that article written up. So
before he
if you'd like to change your mind, you have just a couple more days.
Yep.
All right, that's it, brother. That's it. We are in the divisional round of playoffs. This is it for football, baby. And then after this, we get the championship games and then obviously the Super Bowl. For those of you who tune in for fantasy,
the Puppy Bowl?
I forgot about that. Son of a gun.
Fuck.
Is that hosted at the Browns this year? That would be very on point for them. The dog pound. For those of you who listen for fantasy football advice, we apologize a little bit there. You know, this is the kind of the moment where we like to talk a little bit more about NFL football. So we truly hope that you enjoy our NFL coverage. But rest assured, fantasy football conversations will be had all in the off season, and that's kind of why we've kind of made this little bit pivot to talk about NFL and get ready for both the divisional matchups and then obviously the championship and the Super Bowls, because it is pertinent. It is here. It is now. We're going to have so many conversations about fantasy football in the offseason. So tune in, hit subscribe, and give us 5 stars, because it really, truly does mean the world. And I'm telling you, if you are not already doing so, go follow us at LeatherBrainz with a Z on all social media platforms. And we are newly vested in writing. So we are doing emailers to all of our brainiacs. So go, once you click follow, go to our link on our social media platforms, and it will, all you got to do is put your email in. Our writing will hit you free of charge. We're not charging anything, baby. This is all free. And it will send it right to your inbox as soon as it comes out. And there will be a lot of fantasy football content, as well as, like I have previously alluded to, I wrote an article about Tom Brady to the Jets. I think it's a good article. Scotty has been killing it over in the writing game for us as well. So be on the lookout for that. Go give us a follow, shoot your email over. And that's it, baby. That's all the time that we got. Yeti, you ready to get out of here?
Yeah, baby.
All right, let's do it. We
are
out.
Thank you for listening to this episode of LeatherBrainz. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and leaving a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast app and YouTube, as well as following us at LeatherBrainz on Twitter and Instagram. If you're looking for specific fantasy advice, including draft advice, trade insight, starts and sits, or even if you want our thoughts on your sports bets, please feel free to send us a DM on Twitter for an answer and a chance to have your question featured on a future episode. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back before you know it.